In 2006, I was converted to full faculty, and I was asked to start shortly after that a sound art class. We were moving into a new building, and I was asked to design a performance space, a multi-use space, and a sound recording studio. I had a good time as an assistant professor at George Mason. It was fun. Met a lot of incredible people, some of whom are here today, and started something in 2010 called Noise Awareness Day. Now, to be clear, what I did with that festival was to take a phrase that had been used as part of an international initiative to protect people from loud noises and co-opt that phrase in the interest of diversifying the kind of audio culture that people enjoy, grow from, include in their life. I knew, of course, as I was hired at George Mason, about Mr. Mason's history as a quote-unquote slave owner. And it wasn't until after I'd been there for a while that it dawned on me that I needed to do some research and to see really what his relationship was with this institution of monetized human life. So I find out that Mason had a property called Gunston Hall. It was a small village of 4 connected farms on which labored about 100 imprisoned men and women of African descent. One particular story of one particular individual caught my attention, and it was a man who was described as Mulatto Dick. Mulatto Dick. He was a runaway twice. And I found a legal document. A lot in the news these days about legal documents. But I found a legal document. I'll read it, which means getting glasses out. Dick, a Negro manslave belonging to George Mason, being brought before the court on the complaint of his master for running away, and it appearing that he stole goods from several persons. It is ordered that he be set in the pillory and one of his ears nailed thereto and cut off, and that the sheriff deliver him to a constable to be conveyed from constable to constable till he is returned to his said master. Now, part of the documentation that went with this entry in the Fairfax County Court of Records was that, George Mason had an opportunity to pardon the man. Mason said, and we have transcripts of his actual words, he said, "Fuck it. Nigga ran away twice. Cut his ear off." Because it was his ear that was lost, it was easy to dedicate my work at George Mason to this man that we know only as a footnote to the legacy of a man who has buildings and statues and all sorts of stuff all over this area, all over the country, all over the South. George Mason, founding father, signatory to the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. I don't know. It's not my history. Look it up.
That sounds like the Declaration of Independence.
I'll take it. Yeah, that sounds about right to me too. He died in 1792. So, we renamed the studio Dick's Ear Studio. And several recordings that are actually out in the world now, you'll see it says Dick's Ear Studio on there. I have no idea what this means in terms of like the legal office at George Mason University. You are not supposed to rename their architecture, but that's what we did. I was at a forum last night on sensible drug policy at George Mason University, organized by Vincent Allen Rado, a good friend of mine, an artistic collaborator. And one of the presenters made the point that this country has a long-established, well-developed practice of punishing black bodies. Part of the malaise, part of the bad feeling that is left from that period of history is the incapability of us as contemporary people who like to think of ourselves as free to understand how such a wicked system that deprived people of so much could be held in place. As black people, I think our children should learn about Denmark Vesey and Nat Turner coming out the crib. That the most important thing that our children can learn about what happened to our parents is that we did fight back like any other human would do. We fought back. Now, resistance. A lot of people want to tack their name onto that term, resistance. Well, let's be clear that the most passive, nonviolent form of resistance available to anyone in any oppressive situation is to run away. Whether you're one of the hundreds, thousands of men and women and children held in Virginia during that time period, or whether you're just, the mom who is tired of getting hit and pulls her things together and the clothes together and the children together in the middle of the night and leaves. Running away is always available as your first course of resistance. And you see here in this effigy of our brother's ear, the punishment for this man stealing his own life. What a concept. That's what he was punished for stealing his own life. Punished in a gruesome way. I'd say that's gruesome. By a man who has his name all over the world as one of the fathers of some kind of ideology about human rights and individuals and freedoms and protections. This country is in a really obvious turning place. It's a stuck point. It's a place where, something really has to give soon, or things could get even worse than they are. I don't really consider myself participating in a boycott, but I haven't been into a Starbucks since that incident. Just every time the thought pops, they're all over the place, every corner, eventually we'll have one. It's just every time the idea pops in my head, how about just going in there to use the bathroom? Well, there's a big mistake. And I just don't do it. We got to come to grips with what it means to run away. We've got to come to grips with what it means to run away. We will, as long as I'm doing and have anything to do with Noise Awareness Day as celebrated in this form, we're going to remember this man. We're going to remember what was done to him. And we're going to remember and protect everybody's right to run away, to leave, to simply leave oppressive systems. Whether that system is a physical system like a plantation that's got boundaries and fences and dogs and people with guns, or whether it's a system of ideology, a system of beliefs. All right. So, at this point, Henry Lowman is here. Henry has a very unique instrument. I'm going to bring Henry to the fore. And honestly, I've been in communion with Dick, and that's all that we have. Next year, we're going to give him a proper African name. Do you understand? We're going to bring the Babaleos in here, and we're going to pour libation. We might bring some chickens in here. You know, tell him what we're going to do. But we're going to give the man a proper name. I'm not going to call him that. But we will remember him, remember his suffering, remember what was done to him and why, and we'll move forward with our joyful noise. Henry. next part of the program, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Everybody for coming. I asked people to make noise for the ear, for Dick's spirit, for whatever trace of him is around us and underneath us and over us. And Jack's here. He's got his guitar. Henry just played his, I don't know what to call that.
Vanilla.
Yeah. And I've got a drum. That's a cajon, which is also a drum. And, they tell us that Dick beat a drum pretty well in his description, the wanted ad for the first time he ran away. That he beats a drum pretty well, that he was a little bit stout, heavy. Slaves didn't get fat unless they had connections in the kitchen, right? I'm asking you to put together a picture of who our man was. Because I didn't say he was a saint, I just said he was a martyr. He was familiar at Mason's table. He was light-skinned. He knew his way around throughout Maryland and Virginia. We're painting a picture of a man of privilege. So when Mason cut off his ear, what George Mason was saying was, man, I thought you were cool, Dick. Well, obviously you're not cool. You ran away with yourself, stole yourself from me twice. Oh, you're definitely losing that ear. A ladies' man. And you're going to cut off his ear. Because he knew somebody in the kitchen, right? Kitchen help back then, it was all female. Because he was kind of heavy. They were taking care of him, made sure he had gravy on his plate. So imagine the indignation of this man. Mutilated so that he has to carry this around, this wound. So, how do we, coordination, Jamal. Jamal Gray is joining me here for the first time, curator of Uptown Art House. And him and Sebi Tayak keep this place humming with a lot of great activity. And I'm wondering if you could maybe pull us together in a circle, and maybe we could circle up some energy. And then Liz Durrett is here, and she's going to actually tape some interview stuff with me. Maybe I can expand on the ideas that we're talking about. Can we do that? I've got my drum.